Okay, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Do a Picture Today podcast. I am Hannah. I'm here with Rob. How are you doing, Rob?
So good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Doing good. So your full name this is totally random. Roberto, right? Or is it just
Yeah,
Robert?
Roberto Valentino Sembiante is the full name, so it's like super Italian. I come from a really Italian family.
Dude, that was wow, that was well done. Holy shit. I was just like a Robert, but no, that was awesome.
Yeah,
That was
Rob was
great.
just easier to say over the phone when I was doing business, so I just kind of stuck with it.
I could see that. But you added so much just like I feel like you should have like the what
Yeah,
the yes, for those who can't sing, what is this called, Rob?
I don't know, Italian fingers.
Oh, okay, the Italian fingers, yes. So
Bibbidi bobbidi boobidi.
yeah, there you go. Um, so one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on today and what I was talking to you about before I hit record was you recently just accomplished something called the Brawl 300. And so after a bit a little deeper diving, creeping, learning more about what the Brawl 300 was, would you mind explaining to folks what goal excursion you just accomplished and what the Brawl 300 is?
So the Brawl 300 is a course that my friend made up. It's a 300-mile course that goes through the mountains of Utah, where you start near Bear Lake, which is in Idaho, and then you quickly, over like a 30-mile span, cross over into Utah, and then you go through the mountains of Utah all the way down to Heber City, this place called Soldiers Hollow, which is an old Olympic, I think it was an event ground for biking and something else. But
Oh, cool.
it wound up being a pretty hard event. I wanted to get it done within 96 hours. It took me 131. A lot of logistical issues, and then also just gear that failed, which I should have been prepared for. But yeah, it's 300. It wound up becoming on my GPX 320 miles and then 64,000 feet of elevation gain and loss throughout. So it was a lot for for one run. Took 5
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. So you did this in one go, not just like, oh, I'm gonna, obviously there's you stopping to sleep, maybe take a quick power nap, but the whole thing was one push.
Yeah, I slept about like 7.5, 8 hours in 5 days.
Just,
Yeah, it was not pleasant.
Jesus. Oh my God. So what made you want to do this?
Wow. So I had a whole lot of other plans for the summer. I wanted to run 100 miles around a Walmart with an American flag.
Oh,
My
wow.
coach said no to that. I wanted to do the Zion Traverse FKT, which is like essentially an out and back FKT. It's like 94 miles
Uh-huh.
in Zion, but the trail was not available. I wanted to go to Italy and do an FKT that I attempted last year there. My coach said I wasn't prepared for it. So it's like all the things that I wanted to do all summer long. My coach just said no. So he suggested this, and I just kind of just said yes.
Mm.
So yeah, instead of having like a nice easy summer with a bunch of hundreds, it was just one summer of 300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those who don't know what's an FKT.
So an FKT is the fastest known time. So there's a website and an organization that kind of handles all of the records, but essentially all trails that are established trails, they just log whoever has the fastest time on it. So it's kind of like you're running a race, but there's no one really there. You're just competing for the fastest time on that trail ever. So
Okay. Oh shit. So like you were thinking like three big ass or two huge pushes within the summer to get like a
yeah, so
FKT.
I would have gotten the Zion Traverse. That's it's a trail. It's about a 48-mile trail. So I would have went out and then I would have went back. So for 96, the out and back FKT, and then there's this trail called Alta Via 2 in the Dolomites region of the Italian Alps. Um, that one's 92 miles and like 40,000 feet up, and then 42 down. But that one's pretty hard. So I guess I just wasn't prepared for it. Also, after coming off of Transcon, I probably wasn't prepared for it. But yeah.
Mm. I mean, I don't know that much about the Dolomites. I know there's quite a few races up there. But anytime I see, this is not me speaking to your physical shape at all. I'm just like, that shit looks gnarly. Like, it's just like, it looks like, was like a dragon's back. Isn't that also what it's called as well?
I
And
mean,
it's just,
essentially, I was there last year doing it, and it's pretty much whenever you're climbing, they're like 1,000 foot to 1,500 foot miles. each mile. So like you'll have like 2 miles flat, and then it's like, all right, we're gonna go up 1,500-foot climb for like 2 to 3 miles, go up this pass, then come back down. Last year I did it a little bit late in the season, so I got stuck on an ice shelf without a pickaxe going up, and then almost died. So I wanted to come back this year and then do it, but it was not in the cards for me.
Yes. Next year, when there isn't
maybe
snow.
Fingers
maybe
crossed.
You could do like the Rob tour, where you put a list and you're like, yo, coach, here's all the shit that I want to do, and we're gonna call it the Rob tour. I need you to sign, like, you know what I mean?
Could be. You never know.
Yeah.
We'll see how Mike goes with it.
Is Mike your coach?
Yeah, coach, friend.
Shout out to Mike.
Yeah, what a guy.
He's listening. Oh man, so back to the Brawl 300, because I think 100 miles. First off, ultra running I think has taken a very different turn in the last couple of years because it's gotten a lot more attention, and so I feel like the 100-mile races, like, those are big efforts. Don't get me wrong, but you also see kind of this more attention towards the longer races too. So like, let's not just do 100. Let's keep going, and that to me is where it's super fascinating because you're already pushing your body to these like limits to keep moving. So the Brawl 300, how did that come to your plate exactly? Was it just something your buddy made up and you're like, let's fucking go?
Essentially, so my friend Mike made it, and then him and Ben Light, both ran it in 2020, and they've kind of mentioned it to me a few times since they've ran it. And when he brought it up, he's like, "Hey, why don't you just do this?" I was like, "Okay, that could be cool. Like, why not?" Like, I didn't really put too much thought into it. I was like, I've already done a 200, like a 300 will probably just be the same like level of pain, just for longer sustained effort. So it's kind of how it came to be. It wasn't like too much like thought into it. It wasn't anything. I had a 2-month training block, and then just showed up.
Yeah. How do you go about planning that? From like okay, you're going to be at this, like, did you plan like pit stops and crew stops and, you know, how many calories I should eat? Like, how, because I think training for it body wise is one thing, but the planning to go into place to try to like fuel yourself for that sort of shit. Or maybe it's just like you're just one of those types of guys where it's like, I'm hungry, I grab a banana and I have a piece of steak and then I keep going. Or is there any more like calculated effort?
Well, so for the actual like route planning, you get the whole route, and then you ask people who've done it before, right? So I had my own like sections that I had planned out, and then I brought it to Mike and Ben and been like, "Hey, you guys have done this before. What like section should I be doing?" And a lot of the places that I had planned, actually, you couldn't really drive to. So I wound up going off of them. So it does combine the Bear 100, which is a very mountainous 100 miler, and then also Wasatch 100, which is the same thing. One is like 22,000 feet of elevation gain, the other one's like 26. So like those all have aid stations already, like spots that they've already picked out for the race. So we just used those aid station spots, and then the middle 100, Ben just laid out like, hey, here are some good spots to stop at. So that's how we did the aid station stops, crewing out of my van with my friends. And then for food, I just aimed to get 500 calories an hour. That was sustainable for like the first 36 hours or so. And then I got a In-N-Out burger. They got me an In-N-Out burger. I really should not have eaten it. I didn't really want to eat it, but I felt bad because they got me it. So I ate it, and then I started throwing up all night. So, yeah, that's kind of the gist that I try to go for. Like Oreos, goos, gels, meat sticks, cookies of sorts, or like a Cinnabon, donuts, applesauce, fruits, and then at aid stations I'll have like sandwiches, rice, meat, potatoes, like my bigger meals.
500 calories an hour.
Yeah, it's
holy
disgusting.
Shit.
Yeah, that's usually what I try to aim for on races. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That one I worked. That worked for the first 36 hours, and then that bad burger kind of set me over the edge.
Oh my God. I'm like trying to think of like, because I am not doing anything 300-mile effort. I'm training for 100K, which is 1/6 of what you're 1/5 of what you're doing. But I cannot imagine putting 500 calories in my mouth every hour.
It's really not that hard depending on like what you're having. If like I have a pretty like dirty diet in regards to like I'm eating
Okay.
Oreos and I'm eating like peanut butter, and then like at the aid stations I'm having like 1,000 calories, like 1,500 calories worth of food, like really quick, like sandwiches. So that's an
Okay.
easy way to get it down. Like one double stuffed golden Oreo is 75 calories. If
Oh,
you're
okay.
able to like have like spring energy meals, like those are like 300 calories a tube. So like
Okay.
if you have two of those an hour, which isn't
Okay.
really too hard to put down, you're like already at 600 calories.
Yeah. So
So
like when you're traversing some of this elevation, are you like down to eat an Oreo? Like are you still craving food at that point?
I usually try not to eat during climbs. I like to do like so I'll like do drink mixes during climbs. So like scratch high carb is pretty great. That's like 400 calories a serving. Um,
Jesus.
or
Okay.
like knack high carb as well. That's like 250 calories a serving. So like I try to sip on the up and then eat on the downs.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I don't usually eat too much on uphills. I usually just try to grind out uphills pretty quick because then you like stop and you like lose momentum. And
Mm-hmm.
that's
You're
no
already
fun.
having a hard time breathing, so like trying to shove food in your mouth when you're trying to like gasp for air. Really
Well,
hard.
yeah, it's also it's like that's a great way to like increase your heart rate if you're like going pretty hard up a hill and then you start eating, so like you're stop breathing. Like that's not a good idea.
That's very fair. So we talked about like kind of the inspiration of it. We talked about the calories part of it. Talk to me about your preparation. Because I mean, how do you and I feel like there's so many articles online of like how to prepare for a long ass race, how to prepare. And in some instances you can't prepare for a 300-mile trek until you're actually in it. Like you can get close with like doing a 100-mile run and then keep running. But
Hmm.
the mentality and putting your body in that position, you can't really train to feel that way. You have to just wait till race day to see. So how
Hmm.
did you prepare for this? Like you said, you had 2 months.
Physically, yeah. So I had 2 months, right? I started in the beginning of May, like second week of May, so until the third week of July, essentially. Um, so physically, decent training block. My biggest week was like 120 miles and like 24,000 feet. It's like not really too big. I was supposed to have bigger weeks, but I went traveling to go see a friend, and you're not supposed to travel, and it was during peak week. And
Mm.
then I got sick, so like all of like my massive training kind of stopped. Like I would have gotten about 140-mile week with probably about 50,000 feet of gain, but that was not feasible. So yeah, like I think my biggest like workouts were like a back-to-back 30-miler with 6,000 feet each in Leadville. So
Oh,
that
you're
was
just
pretty much
training
it.
in okay.
Well, it's like I live in a van, so like I travel a lot, and like, it was nice and cool weather over there. One of my friends was over there, so I was just hanging out in Leadville before I came out to around the course area, and yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I just love how you slipped in that you trained for your 300 Brawl or Brawl 300 by training in Leadville, which is also a notoriously very difficult place to train given the high altitude.
It's definitely fun. I enjoy. I mean, like it depends on who you are. Like I guess like the history of your body, like how your body reacts. Like I was a diver, right? So I've trained my lungs decently well throughout my life, and like breath holds and just breathing in general. Um, so I've never really gotten any sort of altitude sickness. So like Leadville wasn't too bad for me.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, some other people maybe not. Like yesterday, I went up this mountain that went up to almost 12,000 feet. I haven't really been training at all, and it was pretty easy ish.
That's amazing. That is that is a that's a superpower there, my man. That's whoo.
Oh,
None of
hopefully
us
it's
are
not a
given
curse.
that.
Hopefully it's not a curse.
I don't think so. I think you could be able to do things like pull up to Leadville and just fucking kill it, which you did. So that was I just love how you dropped that in there. I had to call that out. But from the moment, like the mental aspect now, I know I'm asking you all these
Mm-hmm.
questions about the training part of it, but I think there's so much to the preparation of an actual race day because the race is like the race, the Brawl 300. Um, mentally, I'm curious from your perspective, right? You're pushing through a 5 day, almost longer than 5 days, 300 miles to go, a fuck ton of incline you have to go up. Is there moments of doubt? Was there any moments of doubt for you? Like, holy
Oh,
fuck,
during
what
that
have I
race,
done?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really didn't want. I didn't want to do anything after like mile 78. Essentially, like that night, like I had threw up a ton, and like I was kind of like not going as fast as I wanted to. I was like, guys, like my shoes are all botched up. Essentially, like my orthotics had caved in, so like I'm super flat footed. So essentially, my
Okay.
ankle was like touching the floor every single step. So like everything just hurt, and I was like, guys, like this probably isn't a good effort. But if you have a good crew, they kind of just gonna keep you to it. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried dropping that, and then I tried dropping it like mile 230, and they just wouldn't let me. Like
Oh,
I was
not so
essentially like, at
close.
that point like a little baby. Like they just like would like I'm not allowed to like make decisions or like think for myself. So that was pretty interesting. But like the mental aspect in general, I know it was my first time doing an FKT, so I'm more used to races where like there's other people I'm competing with, so like it's a lot more entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
There it's just like you and you're running a trail for some reason. Like
Right.
it was definitely different. Like when I went to Bigfoot, I did Bigfoot last year. It's a 200 miler. Like that mentally, other than like being in the military and understanding like things get like pretty hard and going through selection processes, like when you go to one of these things, personally, I've just understood that you need to understand like there's like nothing else in your life anymore, and there's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be anything else in your life anymore for an extended period of time, and you have to just be okay with that, and everything's going to suck, things are going to go wrong, you're going to have to problem solve, your plan's probably not going to go to the place it's supposed to be. So like when I was at Bigfoot, I just kind of was like, yep, like my friends don't exist anymore, family doesn't exist anymore, happiness, warmth, like not being on sleeping on a trail, like none of that, like my life is this and it's never changing,
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the mentality that I
Right.
go for it. So that's kind of like how I've gotten through bigger efforts.
Yeah. Because I'm always curious. The 5 days, obviously, your crew is with you. That's a long time to be with just you. So how are you like negatively like combating the self doubt, the negative thoughts? Because that's like it's a lot. I feel like that would be very intense.
It's not even negative, like it's not, there wasn't really any doubt ever. It got to the point where I was like, I know I could finish this. Like I've done 200 before. I know exactly what the last 100 is going to be like. I was like, I was like, guys, I just really just don't want to do it right. Like I just would rather go to bed. And so like there was really no negative self-talk or anything like that. It was
Uh-huh.
mainly just like, this is like, imagine it's Monday morning and you know that you're going to be running until like Wednesday night. It's like, I really just don't want to be here right now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, all right. It was more like not even like a laziness thing. It was just I was kind of just like sick and tired of it. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll do it. I was like, if you guys want me to do it, I'll do it. But like, really don't want to. So yeah, that's kind of yeah. There was no real self doubt
That's
throughout it. I
good.
think that you gotta
That's
have like
really good.
a very unhealthy level of not even an ego, but just like self assurance that you're going to be able to do the event that you're at. There
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be any questioning of you're going to be able to do it. Like the first five ultras I did without training, and the biggest one I showed up to Moab 240 with no training, and I got to like mile like 72,
Uh-huh.
and like my body full on failed. I had like no calories. I like threw up all night. Like I had no idea what I was doing. But even then, I like rolled up to this race. I was like, I'm going to finish.
Yeah.
It'll be great. So
Where do you think that sense of like, because I mean, I would pretty like I've been do have some self confidence, but there is something about being just raw dogging it on a trail and just being like, like you just are humbled, like you're going, like you're running up mountains, you're traversing, and there's very much like like at least for me, like my brain will just go like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why are we doing like it's when your body is pushed to really hard levels, I think it's very common for your brain to try to like protect your body, and so you get like the questions of like, why are we doing this? The self doubt tries to creep in. So I'm curious on from your perspective, if you don't have that, that's amazing. What do you think you've done in your life so that you don't have those kind of negative thoughts creeping in when you are going on a 300 fucking mile run and you're going for it?
what have I done in my life? I mean,
Or like why
most
do you
things.
think that you don't have that?
Mm, I'm not sure. I have attempted many things in my life, and a lot of them have gone well. Some of them have not, and I've learned, but I've usually, like, even when I was a kid, like, I always start off sucking at whatever I do. Like, I've never really been good. I've never really been athletic. Like, I used to have a stutter growing up. I couldn't read until I was, like, in fourth grade. There's a lot of things I just stink at. And I've just learned that if I fail enough, I usually get good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of failure, I'm just used to failing, and it doesn't really affect me very much. So there's that. And then I started ultras as a mental, like, check every now and then, because I went to the Navy, right? I went to Buds. I quit out
Mm-hmm.
of Buds, it's SEAL training, and then I went to dive school and made it through dive school. And those selection programs, they just kind of kick the shit out of you all day long, and your life sucks, and you're always wet and sandy and cold, and like life is horrible. And then I realized like life was getting too easy, so then I just signed up for a race after my 21st birthday. I was like, all right, I'll just show up to this race, and like I just turned 21, and just run it. And it was like, oh, it's like a nice little kick in the dick again. Like I need to keep myself in check because like it can't get too easy. So that's how I started in ultras, and when I show up to one, it's like I know it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a long-winded answer, but I just sort of roll with it, and it's gonna suck, and you're gonna be up on a mountain. You'll be like, why am I even doing this? But I just usually go to war with whatever I'm doing. So like whether
Yeah.
that's real estate business or flipping business or now starting a race directing company or running 300 miles, all
Yeah.
just like, yeah, go to war.
All right. So you just like full on embrace the suck with the lack of fear of failure. It sounds like those are the two. Not
Yeah,
to
I mean, like, what's
paraphrase, but
like
that's kind of what I
for
was
me,
getting.
like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Like, I'm gonna lose. Like, all right, then I'll just try again.
I never said it. Thank you very much for your service, by the way. I don't
No,
think
I
I should have
appreciate you.
started with that, but yeah, of course. Thank you. So I think we touched upon this, but I just want to clearly ask, what was harder for you? The physical aspect of the 300 or the mental aspect of the 300?
Mm, physically, it was pretty bad.
How'd those
It's
toenails do?
oh,
How'd that feel?
fine actually.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah, I lost nothing. I'm pretty good with foot care nowadays. Uh, so yeah, good shoe size. So, like, I mean, physically, it gets pretty hard. Eventually, it's like it takes about 70 or 80 miles, and you kind of get to your like you're just like you J curve up, and then you have like a standard level of pain. I think the sleep deprivation was pretty hard.
Hmm.
I was like audio
Okay.
hallucinations. Whenever I shut my eyes, essentially I was asleep. I don't know if either of them was harder than the other. Um,
Okay.
I mean, physically it was pretty difficult. It's like, all right, like this next
Yeah.
section at mile 210 is going to be 7,000 feet. Like, and you're like, oh, great, tight. And then
I'm
like
just trying
you're,
to picture
yeah.
like I'm trying to picture just the situation of you being at mile 210 being like, "Oh yeah, I still have 90 miles to go." And like I think that's the part that's fascinating to me is like the mental aspect. I think your brain is like, "Fuck, that's a lot."
I'm usually pretty jolly.
But
Like
maybe
everyone
not.
always like I just roll up to the aid station. I'm so excited to see my friends and my crew. So I'm usually like I'm pretty happy. And then everyone, like, if it's a hard section, like starts giving me these looks. I'm like, what? I'm like, what's about to happen? Because I just didn't look at any of the sections since I started the run.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, the next section's this one, and so
Gotcha.
I'm just pretty happy about it. And then I eat my food. I'm back. Like, can't get any worse than this. And then I go on the next section and it gets much worse. And then I'm like, oh well, that was fun. I got to see my crew again. Can't get any worse than this. And then yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So you almost break it down by aid station rather than looking at like the 90 miles left. You look at,
Oh,
okay, I'm going to see my
you
crew in
can't
6 miles.
ever look at anything past the current spot that you're in. Like never,
Okay.
like I never load the full GPX file onto my watch. I always just divvy it up section by section. And you get to your next section, it's like, all right, what do I need? I need to roll out my feet so that my feet don't feel like they're broken anymore. eat 1,000 calories, like drink like a little bit of caffeine, and then I'm brand new again. Time to go. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. That's good to know. That's
but
really good to know.
then that's when you get in your head and you're like, wow, I have another 230 miles to go. Like that's kind of daunting for most people.
That's what I was curious about is like the part about the 300s is like you're literally doing 200 miles and you still have 100 to go. So from your perspective, you're saying you should only look at it in like segments, never the full picture.
Correct.
All right. That's great advice. That's very great advice. Maybe people already know that, but I didn't ever really take that into account. Damn. Okay. And then side question, and this is just a selfish me question. What are things that you learned through racing about how to take better care of your feet?
Oh, this is a pretty simple routine. Have a
Okay.
shoe size that fits. So like a thumb width, from like a thumb width between the end of your toe
Okay.
and the top of your shoe
Okay.
should be the size of shoe that you wear. At Bigfoot, I didn't do that, and I had a size and a half too small, and like all of my toenails fell off, and I kind of like broke my feet. So definitely wear the right shoe size. Get it like fitted. Go to a Fleet Feet and get your shoes fitted. A running store, get your shoes fitted.
Okay.
Then I wear Injinji toe socks. Just wear a sock that agrees with your feet. Um,
Okay.
I wear those, and then I put squirrel's nut butter on my feet every 25 or so miles, and then I'll change my socks out every 25 or so miles.
Okay.
So it's like a routine. Make sure you have the right shoe size, and then you should be changing your shoes/socks every 25 or so miles. And you really shouldn't have any issues. And if you do, then that is a issue with your shoe. And also, you should be wearing gaiters, which are the little um, like covers that go over your shoes so that no dust and dirt can come in. So that because if you have dust and sand coming into your shoes, your socks essentially just become sandpaper, and you're gonna blast your feet. So, yep.
Okay. Making mental notes. Well, also I'm recording this, so I'll when I edit, I'll go back. But that was a great. Okay. You put nut butter on your feet?
So Squirrel's Nut Butter. It's a company. I forget
Okay.
where they're based out of. I think they're based out of Utah. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But they have a really good product.
Okay. I've been using Body Glide, but I've found that I have to reapply that.
I
It
mean,
like
anything
disintegrates.
anything works. Most lubes works. You should be lubing up your feet every 25 miles. Um, just because
Okay.
that's usually what I found. 25 miles usually takes about 5 to 6 hours. So like at that point, like your feet are probably pretty dusty. You gotta change them out.
Okay. I got you. All right. Thank you for that. And then to touch upon this, because you are a veteran and you do embrace the van life. So, what made you want to shift some of your attention to ultra running? Like, what was that transition like?
I essentially only started ultra running for the fact that it made business easier for me.
Okay.
So, like, running up a mountain at like mile 50 is a lot harder than making 150 cold calls and looking at 100 deals. So, I would just mentally
Okay.
just do ultra specifically for that reason. And it did. It made
Okay.
my business life a lot easier of just like I understand that this is going to take a long time. I'm going to fail a lot, and it's going to be very difficult. That's what business is. Business is the exact same thing. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to fail a lot, and it's not going to be fun in the beginning. You're not going to reap any rewards, and that's kind of how it feels like on a 100 miler when you're only 40 miles in. You know, so
Okay. So, kind of the connection between the ultra running life and how it can apply to your business life, your personal life, just everyday life of just like that discipline pushing through things.
yeah, I try to tell people that voluntary hardships make involuntary hardships easier. So if you purposely put yourself through shitty times in your life, it's going to make the shitty times not as bad. So if you can't control things that are happening to you, but you can control the way that you react. So if you put yourself in times where you have to react a lot on purpose, it's going to make you react better in actual life. So it doesn't have to be running. I tell people this all the time. It's like, oh, what do I do then? I was like, okay, like what's the maximum amount of pages do you think you could read out of a book in one day? If you say like 50, it's like, okay, pick up a 250 page book and then like sit down in a chair with some snacks and a ton of water. And you have to, it doesn't matter if you comprehend the book or not, but you have to sit down in that chair and read that book every single word until you finish without getting up. That's kind of like the same thing. It's like it sucks. Nothing's fun about it. It's hard. Your brain's going to be fried. You want to get up, but you can't. So that's the kind of voluntary hardships make involuntary hardships easier. And that's something that I've followed for the majority of my life.
I like that. So I also noticed that one of the key things that you have, at least on like your Instagram, because I said I stalked a little bit, you maximize your potential and the potential in others. Did I say that right? Is it
Yeah.
one of the things maximizing my potential and the potential in others? So do you find like ultra running is very applicable to that area? Like you're able to maximize certain parts of your life because you're embracing the voluntary hardships over here?
Essentially, yeah. I use that as a tool in my life to be able to push myself to levels that I didn't think possible. I mean, I was never really a good athlete, still pretty bad athlete. But being able to push yourself further than you ever thought possible in anything. So business, like writing a book right now, never thought I'd do that, considering I couldn't read until 4th grade.
Fuck yeah.
Doing ultras, all that kind of stuff. So that I've seen does well in my life and creates a purpose. So if I'm able to help other people do that at the same time, that'd be a dream come true.
Aw, that was so heartfelt. That was awesome. No, I completely agree with you though on and why I think running, because there's different reasons why people run, but I think at some point it all kind of flows into the same thing where there's this fascination of the fascination and realization that you can push yourself farther than you thought possible. And then there's the curiosity that comes in of like, what else can I apply that to? Is it a business? Is it my personal life? Is it career goals? Is it financial goals? Is it, because I think, and this is one of the reasons why this podcast came to fruition, is I think people get stuck in the hamster wheel of societal expectations of what you're supposed to be doing. And I think ultra running is one of the best ways, while sometimes painful, not always enjoyable, is like the best way to like just like say kind of a nice like fuck you to what you're supposed to be doing as a reminder of what you can do. So
it's definitely interesting because I mean I've never really been a part of, I guess in the military I kind of was, of societal norms and like doing the 9 to 5 gig and all of that. Like I'm assuming when you go, like when I was in my old office and I told people I was like running 100K, they thought it was ridiculous and that it shouldn't be done. So yeah, it's kind of like a good fuck you to normal society of like I kind of am outside of the box kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. At least like for me, or maybe for you in this instance, or maybe not. But I think people actually run outside and do ultras because they like being in nature and all that. And I think that's one way to look at it. There are some times when I'm there. There are some times where it's just like, I'm here to prove a point. And 9 times out of 10, that point is that I think you can do more than like you've been told that you can. So.
Yeah. A lot of people say that seeing nature thing. I'm usually literally just staring at the trail, like staring downward for like everyone was like, oh, this like Brawl. Everyone's like, oh, this is so gorgeous. I'm like, I literally have just been staring at rocks for 12 hours. So, yeah.
I think, well, was this on your Brawl 300?
Yeah. Or most of my ultras, I don't really look around very often. I usually just.
I try every once in a while to be like, okay, like I made it to the top of the mountain. Like, let's take 3 seconds and just do a quick scan of the view. Because, like, let's just look. I just worked my ass off to get up here. Like, let me just take a gander. But sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But, oh man. So, I mean, and I feel like this question gets asked way too much because I feel like you Have you taken time to relish in the fact that you just ran 300 miles? Or are you ready for the next thing?
Um, I did for a little bit. It's weird because I kind of like expected it of myself to be able to finish. So I'm like, oh yeah, you were able to do what you thought you were able to
Oh,
do. Um, I don't know. Maybe it'd take a little bit more time to digest now. I mean, I learned a lot during it, but I'm kind of on to the next thing. I
mhm.
have two big projects before the end of the year that I want to get done, and then there's more projects for next year. So yeah, I'm excited to like get back into faster training because I have a 100 miler coming up, so I don't have to be pacing myself like as if I'm running 300 miles, which is very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good stuff.
What does pacing 300, this might be a silly question, pacing yourself for 300 versus pacing yourself for 100 look like?
Well, a 100 miler, like I could like be like, all right, I'm gonna have more zone 3 training and more zone 4 training throughout my training block. I'm gonna be able to go faster. Like for a 300 miler, like it's not really gonna do too much for me. I need time on feet and mileage, so there I'm always under 140 heart rates, not going too fast. Um, a lot of like endurance lifting, so a lot like more like higher rep, longer workouts in the gym, longer trail runs. Now for the 100 miler, like yeah, I'm still going to be getting a decent amount of mileage out on trail, but it's not the same. Like the other day, I was able to I'm like running 7 minute miles, which I haven't done in forever. So nice to be
Mhm.
able to actually like run instead of just jog everywhere.
Yeah. Have you, because you said you learned a lot from this Brawl 300, any tips that you've learned on that 300-mile run that you think are worth sharing that could be applicable to anyone listening?
Let's see. First of all, if you have orthotics, don't make sure they're not very old. Mine were so old and they just like collapsed. So that kind of destroyed my shoes. Essentially, like my feet started to roll in and the foams at the bottom of my shoes started to get lopsided. And essentially like
Okay.
my ankles like just started to cave in. So that really hurt. Massage your feet early and often. That'll keep your feet doing pretty well. Anytime I massage my feet, essentially like I felt like I had new feet for like 5 miles, which was really nice.
Yeah.
Um, if you have to poop, don't hold it in because your heart
Mm,
rate's gonna get elevated. So it's like now you're just trying to manage your heart rate. It's like just poop. So I did that. Um,
nice.
you need to have a good grasp on making decisions when you're like pretty far into a run. So for me, that meant like I had too much salt at one point, and I was just throwing up all the time. I think that's what happened with the In-N-Out burger. Um,
Okay.
I essentially was just throwing up for an extended period of time. And I was like, oh, Rob, you should probably just stop taking your salt tabs. So, like, a good understanding on nutrition and then being able to recall that information when you're like 2 days into an effort. Um,
Mhm.
uh, if you put together a good crew, I think that's the biggest thing. If you put together a good crew, that's, I'd say, 2/3 of the battle of the run. The same thing happened with Paul. We discuss it all the time. It's like certain people on that crew weren't there, wouldn't have worked, it wouldn't have happened. So your crew is, I would say, more important than the runner at the end of the day to get things accomplished. So definitely build a good crew. Have a good crew. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that about the poop thing. I could see that
Oh
though, like,
yeah.
because your body's like panicking a little bit, or maybe not. Just like, where do you? Oh.
I don't know. Anytime I just needed to poop, my heart rate would just go to 150, and I was like, "Oh, it's weird that I poop, and it'd be back down to like 110."
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that. Like, I feel like if I were to have to poop on a trail, like during when I'm running, there'd be like a little bit of like, oh no, I have to go to the bathroom. Like, maybe that there's like some poop anxiety there. Maybe not.
Well, I think also like you're trying to hold it in while you're running downhill.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
it's
that's
just
just
not.
painful.
Yeah, I think that your body is just like trying to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually,
Those are great
anytime your
tips.
body has an issue during an ultra, so your heart rate's going to go up. So like if you have a salt deficit, if you have too much salt, if you're dehydrated, your heart rate's going to go up. If you need to poop, your heart rate's going to go up. Um, there's so many different factors, but essentially, like if your heart rate's up for like and you're not putting out a hard effort, it's like, okay, something's up. What is it? Let's solve it before it becomes an actual issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. And then I have one last question for you, and then we'll go into rapid fire questions.
Sure. Is that it?
Okay. You touched on this already, but I always think it's one of my favorite questions to ask. Everyone's so different. What is your driving? What's your driver for doing Brawl 300, for doing all these ultras? Yeah.
I really just try to experience everything I can in life. I feel like I've had a very fortunate life where like somehow I've met people that have been able to really propel my life forward. So if there's like a crazy adventure or an experience that no one else is going to be able to experience, and I'm going to be able to experience my life more through it, then I'm going to do it. So that was kind of like with Brawl 300. It was the biggest effort I'd ever done. And I wound up just, going for it. So yeah, I'd say experiencing life is kind of the main propeller for most of the things that I do.
I love that. That's great. I'm very similar to you as well. Like I would hate to get to the end of my life and be like, well, what if? Like I missed out. I would hate to have that feeling. Like the FOMO.
Horrible.
FOMO on the deathbed. Oh man. So, all right. Now we'll hop into rapid fire questions. I also put on my little show notes a screen grab of your 230, or no, I already fucked this up. 323.53 mile traverse effort, Brawl 300, elevation gain, and I can put this, I'll try to put this somewhere on the actual pod. It's just like, it's such a baller screenshot. Like I hope you have this framed. Like I hope there's like some sort of gold fucking frame at your house and like this Strava grab is in there. But elapsed time is 131. Average calories burnt was 67,000 with an elevation gain of 63,320 feet.
Yep.
Well done, man. Well fucking done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Now we can jump into rapid fire questions. So, what is something that you're most excited for that hasn't happened yet this year?
I am gonna go run a sub 24-hour mountain 100. That'll be a first for me. So, Bear 100 is like 22,000 feet of climbing. So, getting that done in 24 hours would be fun.
I love that. Favorite place you've ever been?
Probably the Dolomites, or actually no, the Pyrenees Mountains in Spain.
Oh.
Spanish side.
I'm reading a book. It's called The Rise of the Ultramarathoner. The author is running a race through the Pyrenees right now.
That's so much fun.
Beautiful. Yeah. Love that. Okay. You've got 5 minutes to make a meal, grab something to eat. What do you grab? Your kitchen stocked with your usual stuff.
If I had to make it in 5 minutes, I'm probably gonna grab Oreos. If I had time to make it, I'm probably gonna do ground or steak, rice, and like avocado. That's pretty much my staple meals, like ground beef, rice, avocado.
Where are you located, if you mind me asking?
Right now, I am in Heber City in Utah, so that's like a little bit south of Salt Lake City.
Okay. They have Chipotle where you're at?
Yeah, I love Chipotle.
Okay, I was about to say, but I bet you're like a Chipotle guy. That's your
Chipotle, Panda Express, all those, big fan.
Okay, love that. All right, what is one thing you want listeners to know about you?
About me, I don't know. I think that they should just, I don't know, use me as an example that you don't have to do the normal things that people do to have a normal life. You could have both. You could do the normal life, you could do business, you could do the 9-to-5 job, but then you could also pivot in your life and then do something else at the same time. So don't think that you can't. You're not stuck in a hamster wheel forever.
I like that. All right, last question. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. What are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Oof, my mom, my parents.
Aw.
My body for still working, and then for the people around me that have been able to set me to the position that I'm in right now, because I would not be able to have done any of the stuff that I've done in my life without them.
Well done. That was awesome. That's the podcast, man. You crushed it.
Shabam.
Woo! Okay, I'm stuck recording.